Thank you for staying with us and a warm welcome back to the program. This is Saturday Weekend Prime right here on KTN News, and it's about time we start our studio discussion that I've promised you earlier, and that has everything to do with police brutality. And we did ask you earlier to send us your comment on CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i's silence over the police brutality on university students this week. Let me just take that again. Send us your comment on CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i's silence over the police brutality on university students this week. We already have a lot of feedback. I'm going to go through some of them shortly. But first, let me introduce our guest in studio. On my immediate right, we have Fatma Ali Saman, who is a board member of the IPOA, that is the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. And on my far right is Dr. Charles Mukhwaya, who is the KUSU Secretary General. KUSU is, of course, the Kenya University Staff Union. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So let me start with you, Dr. Charles. We've seen those video clips, circulating on social media, Facebook, Twitter, name them, on, police officers, unleashing attacks on, defenseless students. Those who have been questioning about, if these videos were actually authentic. Of course, KTN cannot independently verify, but can you perhaps give us a rough picture of what exactly transpired on that fateful day?
Thank you, Yusuf. I want to thank KTN for giving us this opportunity to share what transpired on Thursday when the police came to the university to try and, send the students who apparently, according to the police, were on the streets,
yes,
trying to demonstrate and protest and demanding the release of one of their leaders who is now an elected member of parliament, and that is Babowino. But on that Thursday, the police officers literally chased these students in quotes, because the students that we have at that particular time, they were in session. The students were in their lecture halls, and others were actually in their hostels. And the police came right inside the university precincts, flashing these boys and girls out of their lecture theaters, including their lecturers who are actually tending to them, and went on to the hostels, flashing those who are inside those halls, using tear gases and making these boys and girls lie down on the ground, frog marching their teachers, and the rest of the staff being pulled out of their offices.
Yes, and as much as you're going to tell us more about what happened, Dr. Mukhwaya, there's a press briefing earlier today indicating that there's some female students who were raped, and that those who are still in intensive care unit. Can you perhaps clear air on that?
Yes. There are those students who were the lady students who were being harassed by the police, actually who were flushed out of their hostels.
Yeah.
The information that we have is that the police took 3 of those girls, and they could be seen actually on some of those clips on the social media, and disappeared with them. Wherever they went with those girls, whatever they were doing with those girls, we do not know. Whether that is what is being said to have been a cause of rape, that requires investigation.
Speaking about investigation, Fatma, of course, you're a board member of IPOA, and this is part of your statement yesterday, and I quote, IPOA on its motion has proceeded to dispatch its rapid response unit to investigate the matter. So up until now, have you managed to put names to these faces? Because the videos are in public domain.
The investigation is on, so most probably I'll not go through the details for purposes of protecting our witnesses. But what we need to understand is because IPOA has a mandate to monitor police operations that affect members of the public. And it's important to note that we had actually started our monitoring processes way before the elections. And up to the elections, and now we are treating this as post-elections. So actually our monitoring and investigation never stopped, right way before we had started the elections.
Yeah, but this is something that happened on Thursday. Students were harassed. So up until now, when do we expect to get a final investigation or a final kind of a report from IPOA?
Most probably, once we are through with the investigations, our rapid response team was on ground already. We already had monitors, so it was easy for the rapid response to also move in. Immediately, this information was shared. Members of the public have been talking to us, students, some of their parents, and the investigations are ongoing. The difference with this time and last time is that initially students were scared of coming up with the information and, acting as witnesses, but now I would say the story is different. And we might make a breakthrough soon.
Exactly, and I'm sure Dr. Mukhaya and the rest are still waiting for that conclusive investigation. So, Dr. Mukhaya, from the press briefing, once again, by some of your members, they're saying that the students who are raped, they're those who are still in ICU. Apart from investigation from IPOA, are you demanding some more action from the government's part?
Indeed, indeed. For us, first of all, at the university, besides the students who were actually harassed by the police, we also had members of staff. I have told you that some of the professors who were handling these students in their classes were actually harassed together with these students. They were made to lie down with them. Some of the other university staff members were actually forced out of their offices, when they are thrown tear gases through the windows and so on and so forth. They were forced to get out. So we are talking about both students and staff who are harassed. Therefore, at our point right now, we are certainly demanding action to be taken. First, we strongly feel that the police inspector general, the cabinet secretary in charge of security, they must take responsibility in terms of, first of all, identifying the police officers who are involved in that particular heinous act. And secondly, to take stern action against this police, because these young boys and girls are hardly 3 weeks old at the university. They're actually freshers. One wonders, these are the graduates of the Matiang's strict examination rules of KCSE last year. They have just been, admitted in the university. And what they meet is actually this police brutality. And therefore, at the moment, these boys and girls suffered both mental and physical trauma. They are feeling like, does it mean that coming to the university, to study in the university, this is what you mean?
Yes.
They are not feeling like getting back to class. The same thing with their lecturers. And we feel that stern action must be taken. Police, yes, they must carry out their duty, but let them not get into those academic areas and where they're causing a lot of trauma to these future leaders. This country requires well-trained manpower.
Dr. Mukhaya, of course, we are going to shortly discuss that loud silence from both the acting interior CS as well as the IG. Now, Fatma, I understand the investigation is still going on, as you have already mentioned, and of course, the police are also stakeholders, when it comes to IPOA. You also work hand in hand, right?
Sure.
So in this kind of investigation, case in point what happened on Thursday, as much as you're getting reports from students, are you working with police, and will that in any way affect your independence?
It doesn't affect our independence, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is finding the truth and what actually transpired. And it is the rule of natural justice that you listen to everybody, and particularly those who are complained against.
Yes.
The element of fairness and impartiality is very critical in all our investigations. Our interest as IPOA is to ensure that any misconduct is dealt with, whichever way. Then at the same time, also the restoration of the trust of the public, between the public and the police.
Actually, that is part of your vision, understand, as IPOA.
It is one of our vision.
And Fatma, let me just take you through quickly some of the act here. And according to 6th schedule of the National Police Service Act, it says, a police officer shall and always attempt to use non-violent means first, and force may only be employed when non-violent means are ineffective. And from the videos there we've seen, and I'm sure IPOA is using it as part of the investigation, these are students who are very much innocent. Some of them were in their lecture halls. So once you find these officers culpable, do you think serious actions need to be taken against them?
Of course, yes. If there will be any form of misconduct on the part of the police, you can be sure that that will be taken care of. What we will be interested in understanding is what level of threat were the police under, what necessitated the kind of force that they used.
Yeah.
Were there other methods they would have used to calm or quell the students, if at all they were protesting and if at all they were rioters. Then again, one important aspect we will pay attention to is who was deployed where and why. Because again, it's common sense that maybe students might not have been protesting inside their halls. So these are the dynamics we will look at, and the truth will only come out after a thorough investigation that is fair.
Dr. Mkhwaya, one of our viewers here, Gidhua Wakoine, says, I can't support students throwing stones to our vehicles and police and expect positive response at all. Do you agree with this view that some of the students there were a bit violent, as much as some of them were innocent in their lecture halls?
During any protest between the police and the students, you will expect the students retaliating, throwing stones or something like that. But on this particular case,
yes,
I don't agree with him. Students were in their lecture theaters. Were they carrying stones in their lecture theaters? In fact, Yusuf, I'll tell you, these students were in class. What happened when the police flushed them out of their lecture halls and their hostels, policemen actually confiscated, they stole their learning material. Students lost iPads, they lost their laptops, they lost their phones, they lost their money. Some students had to bribe police not to beat them up. And therefore, what this particular caller is saying, yes, I think he's talking about the stereotype that whenever students, university students are rioting, they will go stoning cars and so on and so forth. I don't think this was the case this particular time. The students were unarmed, innocent, and actually in their lecture halls. And remember, I've said, these are very new students. They still even do not know the goings on around the university, that they can be able to get out and start throwing stones. They don't. These are freshers.
Yeah. And during the, right after that operation by the officers at the University of Nairobi, the word that was being used is sexual assault. And after that briefing by some of the members today, it turned into rape. These are very serious allegations. So do you think there is need for the government to speak more? Because up until this moment, the acting CS, Fred Matiang'i, is still silent. The IG, I believe, has not spoken up until now. What are you reading in this?
Yusuf will tell you, the government of the day, and in particular the officers in charge of those agencies, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, the Inspector General of Police, must come out and speak. If they don't speak, then whatever speculations, whatever information that is being shared on social media will be taken to be the truth. The fact that the Cabinet Secretary is silent speaks volumes. He is the one who withdrew security from some of the opposition leaders. Could it be that then he withdrew from those leaders to send those officers to bludgeon the university students, to instill fear and despondence among these students? So he must come out to condemn this particular heinous act first, and secondly, he must take stern action moving forward. Otherwise, I think as Kenyans, and particularly the students and their parents, will lose trust, will lose hope in any of these institutions that govern security in this country. We want to have universities being given an opportunity to carry out their duties. They're the citadel, they're the creme de la creme of the society. Let them train these boys and girls to be highly skilled manpower. Kenya wants to move to the Vision 2030. The Sustainable Development Goals, we must attain them. How are we going to attain them when we in the universities are not given the opportunity? And when we are saying this, we are not saying that police should not carry out their duty. They should carry out their duty, but they must carry out their duty within the law.
Lawfully, exactly.
Lawfully.
Now, Fatma, immediately after that operation, of course, video started circulating, and Some people thought these videos were not even from Kenya, but if you look at it closely, these are Red Berets officers, GSG officers, some of them talking in Swahili. So the video in question, as Mukhoya has rightly put it, is something that actually happened on the ground. So how soon will you promise Kenyans that IPOA is going to bring these names of these officers and make them public?
It's important, and it's in our interests as IPOA as well, that the investigations take the shortest time possible.
Yeah.
Because again, we are also interested in the public interest cases, and we know that we would want to help the public find the truth, and also bring anyone culpable of any crime, particularly on the side of the police, into book. And that's very important and very key to us.
Yeah.
The most important thing that, again, needs to be understood. In the police law, there is what is called personal culpability. There's no mob thinking, and I'm sure the police are conscious of that. There's a law that actually is very expressive in allowing police to defy illegal orders. So if you are given, a police officer is given orders that are illegal, he is complied by law. He's expected by law to actually not comply to those orders.
Yeah.
So that in itself it helps in issues of deterrence and determining, again, who is on the wrong. When it comes to what IPOA currently is doing, is that we've done a lot of recommendations. And one area that we have seen as very wanting is the area of public order management. We don't expect anti-riot in protests. What is expected is people police officers who are trained in how to manage protests and how to manage crowds.
Yeah.
People who are more of negotiators, people who don't provoke violence, people who will protect the protesters and at the same time ensure that everyone else is safe.
And as, of course, you'll continue giving us a much more detailed report about what IPOA does. But if you look at police brutality itself, that is a very wide topic. It is not just zeroed in on what happened on Thursday. There are also other cases that has been happening in this country, especially before the August 8th election, when, you know, a small child, I believe in Mathare was also killed during some protest there. So apart from this investigation that you're handling at the University of Nairobi, are there other investigations that IPOA is handling? And have you managed to, you know, bring to book some of these officers involved?
Yes, we have. We have many cases already in court and others already completed. Since inception, we've finalized about 500 cases, and others are still in court, others are under active investigation. And we are improving by the day by getting more investigators on the ground, and we've opened offices, at least 3 main offices in the country, hoping to be able to respond to all that. Last year alone, between January to July, up to July, from July 2016 to July 2017, the percentage of cases of police brutality combined with assault, making about 31% of the cases that we have handled. That is an area of concern. Very soon we'll be expected also to come up with the pattern of misconduct, and I think that will explain much more on the area of brutality, and we would like to look at also the variables. Why do police turn brutal? Is it some level of anger, incompetence, not being able to deal with anger? Is it because of the, how maybe the public protests? We are doing an empirical study on what actually informs this kind of behavior between the police and also public. Yes.
Of course, one of your vision, once again, is, of course, to promote public trust in the police, and hot on the heels of what happened on Thursday. I think that will now complicate your work even more, but you're going to react to that shortly. But Dr. Mukhoya, we've seen what has happened on Thursday and the police brutality apparently on these students. So moving forward, what do we expect, rather, or what do you expect from the government? Do you expect them to take more action? Do you expect IPOA to work on this investigation that they're handling?
First of all, we believe in the independence of the various institutions in place, IPOA being one of them. And therefore, for us moving forward, we would expect that IPOA is going to carry out thorough investigations in this particular heinous act of the police officers, and that the investigations will be speedy and will inform what steps that the government must take. Because this is not the first time we are seeing police brutality. Even the other day, the nurses who are exercising their constitutional right, which says in Article 37 that every Kenyan has a right to assemble unarmed, demonstrate, picket, and petition state authority. Purely, they were doing that. You cannot tell me that the nurses were actually injuring or breaking into shops and so on and so forth. Police threw a lot of tear gas to them, right? So we are saying that IPOA needs to play its role as an independent commission to try and help the country understand why the police officers are this brutal, because it's not normal. I have led very many strikes of workers within our public institutions. And in fact, we have had to involve the police merely to come and offer security and to be on standby to ensure that public order is in place. And we have never had any skirmishes.
Yes.
Can they do that also with the students?
Well said. I think, Dr. Mukhwa, that will also serve as your final comment.
Yes.
And I must commend you because you're one of the few Kenyans who have trust in institutions like IPOA here. Fatma, your final comment. I understand also you have a background on women's rights advocacy.
Yes.
So, provided, what has happened at the UON, let's say, of course, your investigations are going on, the allegations that there have been, rape and sexual assault there. I'm sure it bothers you as well. So when can we get a final report from IPOA?
Oh, I can't personally give a specific date, but it is an area we are interested in, and we will ensure it takes the shortest time possible. At IPOA, by the way, we treat rape or sexual molestation at the level of murder. So it's classified under the high priority cases. So if there are any allegations, we will investigate and come up with the truth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatma, for your input. Of course, Fatma, I gave you a title. I'm sure you're going to get one very soon. Fatma Ali Samanu is a board member of IPOA, as well as Dr. Charles Mukwaya, who is the KUSU Secretary General. Many thanks, both of you, for your input.
Thank you.
Finally, it's about time I go through some of your feedback here very quickly. I believe we're almost out of time, and we did ask you earlier to send us your comment on CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i's silence over the police brutality on university students this week. Let me just go through 2 or 3 here. And Gidhua Okoine, I believe this is a Twitter I've already read. He said, I can't support students throwing stones to our vehicles and police and expect positive response at all. He's tweeting from Bahati, Nairobi. And then we have here from Joseph Oti, who says, this act was well calculated to silence the students, hence Matiang'i's silence. He's, however, on a wrong path. He better change. Okay, I'll not finish that tweet. And then at Nawoko _ she says, heading 2 ministries is not an easy job. It requires more time and energy to marshal out the unfortunate. Of course, you can keep the conversation going on. Remember, our Twitter handle is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. And of course, this discussion brings us to the end of our program. Actually, it has been 2 hours of non-stop content right here on KTN News. And of course, this has been Saturday Weekend Prime. Many thanks for watching. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Have a good night.